another World Cup championship for the women's team. And some of the storylines thereafter are, why aren't they paid as much as the men?
Mm-hmm.
And I saw somebody tweeted us at Junks Radio, I think it was a Forbes article, as much, if not more money than the men's team. But it does seem like the interest isn't as great, like to watch the World Cup. You know what I mean? Like we were having World Cup parties last time, and a lot of it was for the U.S. men's national team.
Yeah.
I don't know that there was as much of that for the women's team.
Maybe not.
That was 2 World Cups ago because the most recent World Cup, the U.S. didn't qualify.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Which
Look, I don't know about the revenue.
How does that happen?
I don't know about the TV ratings. I would assume that yesterday was pretty high. I mean, I watched it, and I'm not a soccer fan. But I would say this. I'm not saying that the Brazilian women should be paid as much as the Brazilian men, or, you know, the French women should be, because those teams are obviously better than the men's team, but the American women should be paid as much as the American men, because the American men are a joke. I mean, they can't even qualify for the World Cup. And the women are winning back-to-back. So I don't know what you want to do, but if you look at the pool of money that the women are chopping, $4 million, versus the pool of money that the men would chop, which is about $40 million, I mean, that's a huge, huge difference. The women, our women anyway, deserve to be paid more.
But here's my question, Jason. You're not a soccer fan.
Correct.
Will you watch a minute of women's soccer in the next 4 years?
No.
That's the problem, though.
I mean,
That's the problem that these women have.
Well, I'll watch the Olympics. I watch the Olympics and I'll watch World Cup.
I'll watch bits and pieces of the Olympics, but I always put the World Cup on a higher pedestal than Olympic soccer.
Sure.
See, I might be I'm definitely an outlier overall, and I may go to a Washington Spirit game in the next couple of years, just because I still think it's probably a little too early for Isabella's too, but she'll probably play soccer, and to see women playing soccer, and it's right down the road. I mean, Lavelle plays for the Washington Spirit.
Yep.
They play in Germantown.
Let's get her in
It could be
studio.
easier.
They play in Germantown.
Could be easier for you to go to one of
And
those
I've
games.
been to several Washington Spirit games, more when Kelsey was playing. You know, she's beyond that now. But when she was playing travel soccer, you'd go to a game or two, and it was great to see some of the best women in the world play there.
But I still don't
Ali
think
Krieger played for them.
You
Yeah,
may
and
see a
wasn't-
quick initial bump after the World Cup, but I don't think there's going to be something sustained like a year. Check back in 2 years and tell me if the Spirit attendance has spiked because of the World Cup results. I'm going to guess it's right around where it is now. It's going to stay about the same.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I'm just guessing.
But that's a whole nother discussion. I'm just talking about the American women should be paid. Maybe if you don't want to pay them equal to what the men make, okay, I get it. But they should be paid more. So let's see what happens with this lawsuit. I mean, they're winning World Cups, Cakes.
I think
It's
it should
very
just be
impressive.
based on...
The men aren't even
It should
qualifying.
be straight math. They should just get a percentage of whatever the revenue they generate. I don't know
Well,
what the percentage should be,
I'm sure that's probably what it is.
but that's what it should be.
But you're talking about the game revenue, where the United States men's team didn't go to the World Cup. But
Yeah.
if the TV revenue, it's like a $2 billion contract for
Yeah.
the men. And so when they go to the World Cup next time,
There just naturally is more money.
there's just going to be more money, whether or not
Right.
they deserve it or whatever. But the conversation is that people get steamed up for women's soccer when it says USA on the front of the jersey.
Right.
Other than
Outside
that, they
of
don't
that,
care.
they do not
That's
care.
correct.
You're right.
That's the
And
same
And you got
thing
it.
with,
You can be honest with
And
that.
I'm to blame too.
that's the same thing with figure skating or anything. You know?
Okay.
A lot of these Olympic sports. Now, soccer's not an Olympic sport, but it's just tough to get over.
And men's sports are naturally just more popular. I get it. I just think that they should be paid more. I don't know how much more. I don't know where the money's going to come from. But when the men can't even qualify for the cup, that should tell you a lot about where that program is compared to what the women can do.
There's just so much more money in the men's game because
I would like
if
to
you
see.
think, like
Have you seen the overnight ratings
The best
yet?
player on the U.S. men's team right now is Christian Pulisic, right?
Right, yeah.
No idea.
Okay, he makes millions of dollars. And my wife yesterday, we're watching the game. She did a cakes bit. She went to Celebrity Net Worth,
That's a good
and
bit.
she looked up. I think it was Megan Rapinoe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I want to say it was like she's worth $500,000.
Right.
Imagine if Megan Rapinoe was a man, she'd be worth millions.
I think
She'd be
she's- I think-
transferred over to One of the best teams
Okay.
in England.
I'm surprised
Pulisic is worth a lot of money because he plays in now the Premier League.
I understand that.
Can you name one women's soccer player outside of Team USA?
Of
No,
course
Nope.
not.
Of course
No,
not.
I
That's why the
can't.
men's game is so popular. That's why they get a $2 billion TV contract. It's not because of
But if
the
you-
men's team.
but if
It's
you-
because of Ronaldo and Messi
True.
and Eden Hazard
True.
and
But
all
if
that.
you asked me to name one player on the men's team, I don't think I could have.
Well, you're completely punched out in soccer.
Well, you
I
probably
understand
could,
that, but
'cause
I
you
know
can name,
who Alex Morgan is.
yeah,
I know
but
who
you know,
Rapinoe
like
is.
Josie Altidore. You know, some of these guys have been around
I
for a
wouldn't have
while.
been able to pull Altidore.
But
I wouldn't have pulled that name.
Jason, 2 weeks ago, you wouldn't have been able to name one women's player either. Maybe Alex Morgan.
Definitely Alex Morgan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to compare
Because you're
probably-
attracted to
numbers,
him. That's
Yeah.
it.
And Rapinoe, because she's
No.
all over TV.
Yeah, but Rapinoe wasn't big 4 years ago. It was Lloyd.
Carly Lloyd, yeah.
the last
I probably could have
men's
named her.
last men's World Cup brought in $4 billion, and the 2015 Women's World Cup brought in $78 million.
That's a big difference.
So I mean, it's quite a chasm there. So if you're wondering why the women are getting paid less, is because less money's being made
I
and
understand
being
that.
brought in.
I'm just saying they deserve more.
Oh, I agree with that.
Like I said, I don't know where the money's going to
where's
come
that
from.
where's that extra money going to come from?
But I'd like to see the overnight ratings from yesterday's game.
And percentage-wise, women get 13% of the money, men get 9%. So they're actually getting a bigger chunk of the revenue that's available.
Oh, see, I saw a different number, but
they're getting a bigger chunk of less.
They're getting a bigger chunk of a much, much smaller number.
Yes.
mhm.
Let's go to the phones. Chris is in Tyson's on line 1. Chris, you're on with the Junkies. Good morning.
Hey, Junks, how are you?
Hey, Chris.
What's up?
I think this is a bigger kind of social commentary where someone needs to stand up and let everybody know that if it was actual equal pay by percentage of revenue, they'd actually make less than they did the last time, which you just mentioned, I know. And they're bringing into stuff like the National Women's Soccer League revenue and comparison. It's not apples to apples. There's completely different revenue streams. It's completely different audience viewership. We have to stop letting everybody have this like equal without actually factoring in all of the total data metrics.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, if you're going to tell me that the percentages are that great, then I guess there's no money out there, or not much more money out there for the women. I just think when you compare the American women to the American men, they should be more equal.
Let's go to Christine in Arlington. Christine, you're on with the Junkies. Good morning.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good morning.
So I just wanted to chime in a little bit on the women's soccer thing. So I watched a lot of the games. My daughter is a travel soccer player, so I will say that I've sort of become more of a women's soccer fan. But I also think, I think that, and I love you guys. I've been listening to you guys for years. But I think that, like, it's important for people like you who have a voice and are men in sports who have a voice to talk more about women's sports. And I really think that when you talk about like what's going to generate interest and what's going to generate like money, like, and I realize you have an audience and I totally get it. And I'm not saying that you have to like, have every day talking about women's sports to some degree, but I mean, have you even talked about the Team USA, run in the World Cup before today? I mean, I have no idea. I've wondered after every game whether you guys, I can't listen to the whole show, so I don't know, but like part of advancing women and advancing women's sports is also having men who support women who have voices doing something about that. And you guys do, and you can.
And we have talked about them. We talked about them after the Thailand celebration. We talked about them after the quarterfinal and semifinal wins leading up to the World Cup final. But it's not our job to promote sports. That's what I will say.
Yeah.
A lot of people will say, why don't you talk more about A, B, or C?
Right. Rugby,
That's not our job.
lacrosse,
Like to
field
promote
hockey.
the sports.
Yeah, I mean,
we're going to talk about
dongs.
what's interesting to us.
yeah. But we're partly to blame. We only talk about women's sports, first of all, if it's interesting to us. And then with women's soccer, we talk about it every 4 years. Maybe we talk about it during the Olympics, but certainly the World Cup. But I don't watch soccer. I get into it every 4 years.
But we're also in the job of getting ratings.
True.
So if trust me, if CK walked in here and said, man, when you guys talk women's sports, when you talk women's soccer or whatever, or women's basketball, the numbers spike, we would talk a lot more women's sports. Trust me, it would happen. But I've yet to see that data
it just turns out
brought in here.
Yeah, it just turns out that in the sports calendar right now, that's one of the hot topics.
Right.
Well, and then and look, I think it's a great product. I said I've been to games. But the Washington Spirit, they play at the Soccerplex. I used to play games in a men's league on the same field. Now it's on the same field at night. And meanwhile, DC United plays right here at Audi Field. It's just the audience is much smaller. It's much more niche-y.
It is.
All right, coming up
but
next.
I will say this. I did enjoy watching the game yesterday.
Oh, I did too.
And maybe soccer fans, specifically women's soccer fans, say, hey, look, that's what you're missing. You might have a point, but I just can't get into it unless it really means something like the World Cup.